Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
All right, welcome once again to another edition of Learning Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck, and today we have Q&A.
Got it.
Oh, you got it. Awesome. Alan was having issues with his audio. He's got it solved. Okay, so on Facebook, I got a couple of questions asked, and I said, well, we got Q&A coming up. We can, if you want to talk about it during the Q&A. It says, oh, well, I'm not going to be in town. So, all right, well, we'll have to postpone it until February, so that that person can ask for it. And it's pretty interesting. We got the eclipse coming up. When was it? April? Where are my notes? Oh, I didn't write the date. April 8th, I think, something like that. Total eclipse, and she wanted to know about photographing total eclipse, and I think she mentioned she's going to be up north for that. Here in Connecticut, we're going to see about a 90% of that eclipse. So we're not going to get the full total eclipse. There'll still be a sliver of the sun visible from our vantage point. So if you're interested in photographing the solar eclipse, I'm hoping that she'll be on next Q&A to discuss it. If she's not, well, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. But I told her that I'd wait until she was on. So, and then Carol had some questions about photo pills, and she's not here. So, all right. So, I had those two topics set, and the people that were interested in it are not here. So we'll open it up to what you guys want to talk about.
Just one comment based on what you said. If
Yeah.
you go to the North Haven Camera Club Facebook page, there is if you want to go north, you better try to book something now because
Yeah.
most of these places are filled up.
Yep. Yeah. And it's only for that short window of time. So, and it's basically going to be an overnight stay. So, but yes, thank you. That's a good point. For unless you got yourself a little camper or something, and you can just ride up, camp it out, ride back. Okay. All right. Coming up, I have Beyond the Rule of Thirds coming up on the 23rd. This is through Milford Photo, so you need to go to Milford Photo on meetup.com in order to register for it. It's going to be a Zoom event. It is a topic that I've talked about in the past. This time I've revamped it, hopefully make it a little bit easier to digest and understand. So anyway, that's coming up on the 23rd at 6:30, and hopefully you guys will join me. So
that's next Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, yes. So all right, so I will turn it over to you guys. Do you have any questions on anything photographically? Any news?
Yeah, I have a question, and it's sometimes I get a little lazy, especially if I'm doing photography like for the hiking group, and it's to put the pictures out on Meetup. People are going to look at it for like 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting has its issues anyways because of sun and shade and all that. Sometimes I get a little lazy when I do a picture and then I get the JPEG. Then I look at the JPEG and I go, I can make this a little better. So instead of going all the way back to the CR2 file and trying to remember what I did,
Right.
I get a little lazy and I go to the JPEG and I make my change there and I save it. Now, now again, remember, this is only for somebody who's going to, about maybe 25 people are going to look at it for 3 seconds, and that's the end
Right.
of it. Um, Everybody says you diminish quality when you do that. I see no difference.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. I'm following you.
I see no difference. So
Yeah.
what am I missing on that issue?
Okay. There is a level of truth to that diminishing quality. However, uh, the best analogy is the photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. All right, so you're old enough to remember putting a piece of paper on a photocopier, hitting the copy, and it spits out a copy of what you put on. Okay.
Having done audio, I know what you're talking
Yep.
about.
So if you take your original document and you slap it on the glass, print copy, it's going to be a slightly degraded version of the image of the document, right? You can tell that it is a copy, all right? If you were to hold up the original and hold up the copy, it says, oh, this is the original, this is the copy, okay? And then you lose the original and you need to send out a copy of the original. You no longer have the original, you just have the copy. So you put the copy on, you press it. Now you look at the two and they're almost identical, except the new copy now has some added little stray dots, some dust that was on the glass that it got picked up. Okay. All right. And the edges of the text isn't as sharp. It's a little, bumpy. Okay. But you need to really do a side by side comparison in order to see some of these minor changes. Right.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yes.
But now, if I take that copy, all right, which is now third generation, if I take a copy, make a copy of that, take that copy, make a copy of that, take that copy, make a copy of that, all right, there's going to come to a point where you can definitely tell that the image has degraded. There's a lot of breakup on the edges of the text. There's a lot of, random spots. There may be some kind of, shadowing in the corners. Okay, all right. So a similar process happens when you are saving generations of a JPEG. All right. Because a JPEG is a compressed version of your image. All right, so you take the raw image, you open it up in Lightroom, and what you're looking at is a pristine original copy. All right, and you say, okay, I'm gonna do an export. I'm gonna export a JPEG. That JPEG is pristine. It's clean. All right. Well, let me add to that. It's pristine if you save it at a high level of compression.
I do.
Yeah.
Where the default for export is 6. I always make it 7.
Okay. Well, that's still a compressed version. All right.
Yes.
So usually it's a range 0 to 10 is a typical range, and if you save it at 10, some systems will go to like 12. All right. So whatever the maximum is, it's going to give you the least amount of compression. All right. And you can usually go several generations before it starts to really degrading, as long as you keep saving at that high resolution. When you start saving at a lower at that lower compression, or that lower number, higher compression. So what it's doing is the the way it compresses it, it looks for areas of similar colors, all right, similar values, similar textures, and it says, okay, this area and this area that are adjacent to each other look so similar that if I were to combine them into one piece of data, nobody's going to know the difference. Okay? So by doing that throughout the whole entire image, they can save a couple of little bits of memory. All right? You say, okay, well, I want a little bit more compression. So instead of looking at two little areas, they're going to say, okay, well, this area, this area, this area, this area, and this area, it's a little bit more different, but I can get away with making them all look the same. All right. And what happens is after a while, what you end up seeing is this banding of color, where you see a very definitive jump between one color and the next. All right. You can normally tell this banding when you look at a photograph of like a sky, because when you're looking at it, when you photograph a sky, it's not all one color blue. There's a gradation when it goes from the horizon up higher into the sky, right? So that gradation is very gradual between one color blue and the other. All right. But when you have, 16 million colors, that gradation can be very smooth. But when you start, saying, okay, well, I'm not going to use 16 million colors. Maybe I'll use 8 million colors. All right. Maybe I'm not going to use 8 million. Maybe I'll use 4 million. So now all of a sudden we got to cut corners. And it says, well, this blue here can't be replicated with that limited palette of 4,000 colors. So I have to make an adjustment. I'm going to make it closer to the value below it or the value above it. And that's how it combines data. All right. So after a while, you start seeing these bands of blue going from that lighter blue to the slightly darker blue. And it becomes very, very noticeable the more compression you add to your image. Okay. So when you first kick out a JPEG, and let's assume we're going to save it at the highest, possible quality, and we'll assume that it's a 10. Okay. So it says, okay, I've reduced all my colors to all the colors that I needed to represent this image in the best, highest quality possible. All right. And it gets baked in because it's a JPEG. All right. And the JPEG algorithm does some really funky stuff to the way it represents pixels on the screen. All right. So now you say, oh, shoot, I need to make an adjustment. Okay. Rather than going to the original, I'm just going to make it here. It's quick. I'm going to, do whatever I need to, and I'm going to save it. All right. So what you've done now is you've taken that original and you put it on the copier and you press copy. All right. And it saves with with the compression to it. So it's taking an already compressed image and it's compressing it again. All right. So it's running through the algorithm again and it says, okay, well, I'm going to compare pixels. All right. This one looks kind of like this one. So I'm going to blend the two together. All right. And if you stop there, because you've saved it at the highest possible quality, you're probably not going to notice anything. All right. However, what I normally tell people is, well, first of all, you have to understand the higher the quality, the more data that's required to show what the image is. All right. The more data used, the bigger the file. All right. So in order to conserve bandwidth space, in order to conserve, image size, we have to understand what the image is going to be used for. So on social media, what's going to end up happening, it's going to be shown very, very small on the screen. Right? It doesn't matter what size you upload it. You can upload a full resolution, 3,000 by 5,000 pixel image. When it's shown on the screen, what you're looking at is a downsized image. It downsizes it to whatever it needs to present that image on the screen. So
I make it small anyways.
yeah,
With no more
there's
than 14. Yeah.
when you're sharing something on social media, there's absolutely no reason for you to share any high quality image. All right. Especially if you want to protect your intellectual property. Okay.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, all right, this is just for showing off your work to the people in your group, so they were there first of all, so they're gonna understand everything, and more than likely, because it's just a memory thing, a record of your events. They're going to be very satisfied with just being able to look at it on the screen and share that with their friends. Say, hey, look, this is where we were. This is the view. This is the people. Blah. All right.
That's the whole idea.
Exactly. They're not going to be printing it out. Okay. So there's absolutely no reason to go anything higher than HD quality, which is 1920 by 1080, which is the typical resolution of most screens. All right,
Well,
not the physical size.
People are, first of all, if you see it on Meetup on the desktop, it's going to be smaller than 1920 by 1080.
Correct.
And most people.
Correct.
And most people are doing this on their cell phones, anyways.
Okay, yeah, but it's not the size, it's not the physical size of the screen. All right, I can have a cell phone. As a matter of fact, most cell phones, the resolution is better than the resolution of your desktop computer. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So it's not the physical size of the screen. It's the pixel density. Okay. And yes, most people, when it comes up on Facebook, it's not going to be that 1920 by 1080. All right, it's going to be much smaller. It's going to be maybe 600, if that, 400 pixels. However, they can click on it to expand it to a larger view. All right. So for that reason, I say print it or output it at 1920 by 1080, because when it goes into that light box, it'll open up bigger, and then people can, zoom around and be able to see a little bit more of the finer detail. Okay. So the large size serves the purpose of being able to use the software as it's designed. To you get the small version in the timeline, which is literally your thumbnail. All right, you click on it and it expands, and I go, now I can see the image, and then there's the ability to zoom in. Okay, and the zooming in is going to be limited to whatever the native resolution you uploaded. All right, so if you upload 1920 by 1080, you can only zoom in on literally a 1-to-1, I believe it is. Okay. So, all right, so that's one restriction on the file size. All right, so you've basically taken a 5,000 pixel image and you reduced it by 25% to that 1920 by 1080. All right. You've saved yourself a whole lot of file size in terms of data bits. Okay. And these companies, they have buku space. All right. But what they do, Facebook in particular is notorious for this. All right. They're going to take your image and they're going to compress it again. Yeah. All right.
Also, I find, tell me if I'm wrong on this, I find with Facebook, sometimes once I post something to Facebook, it's darker on Facebook than it was on my screen. Am I right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Facebook's compression program, it's a sledgehammer. It really is. All right. Its only purpose is to, size down all. I mean, you gotta imagine the millions of images that are coming to Facebook, and a lot of times they're duplicates. I don't know how many duplicates of the same image they have in their storage. All right. So all this data is just taking up tons and tons of space on their servers. All right. So in order to minimize that space, they do a lot of compression. And because they're not really a photography site, sometimes it just does really weird things with the image. Okay. Uh, and then so I've gotten into the habit, whenever I post anything for internet use, all right. Again, I size it down to the 1920 by 1080, and I also purposely scale down the quality to about 60%, which is six. And that scale to 1 to 10, it's
Yeah.
about that 6 or 60%. Okay. And I find that at the 60%, it pretty much meets the criteria that Facebook requires for file size. All right. And it's at that cusp between the image looking good enough for the screen, and so bad that you see a lot of artifacts. It really rides that cusp. Okay. Some people would prefer more like an 80% image compression, but I push it just because I know it's only going to be viewed. It's not going to be printed, so I don't care about all that artifacting. Most people are so used to seeing the artifacts on JPEGs nowadays that we're kind of blind to it, you know.
Especially from cell phones.
Especially from cell phones, yeah, you know. Uh, uh, but so actually, there's a great example, because if you were to look at, you take your photo. What's the first thing after you've taken your photo? What's the first device you see that image on? Your camera.
Screen. Yeah.
That tiny, tiny little 2.5, 3-inch screen is your first view of your image. All right. So now we're taking this huge image and reducing it down to that 2.5-inch, 3-inch screen. Okay. And I've mentioned it that your camera's going to lie to you all the way from beginning to end. All right. And when it displays that image, it lies to you, because when you take that large of an image and you compress it down, you're exaggerating the contrast of your image. All right. And because of that contrast, you are exaggerating how sharp that image really is. So you can look at it on the back of your camera and say, oh, that's a beautiful photo. All right. And then you open it up at home and go, oh my God, it's out of focus. All my edges are a little soft on my main subject. Okay. And that's because now you're seeing at a fuller or even native resolution. All right. And it's not that compressed form. So,
So I got a question.
yeah.
A couple times I had to reduce a photograph to like 30% to transport it. And after that, now once I reduce it in Photoshop to 30% to 1500 across, can I bring it? If I ever need to go back, can I bring it back from 30%?
No. Once you scale down, you cannot scale back up without destroying the image.
So that's why you always make a copy.
That's why, yes. Yeah. You always want to preserve your original image as best as possible. All right. And the nice thing about shooting in RAW is by default, you can't overwrite a RAW file, because when you're working on an image that's based off of a raw file, in order to view that raw file, the system has to make a copy and present it to you. So what you're looking at is either a TIFF or a JPEG, all right, depending on the program you're working with, all right? So that's already a copy of the original, okay? But it's the cleanest copy, all right? And this was one of the problems before RAW became standard. You know, all the old cameras, they shot JPEG. And the first thing we told people is you take that JPEG, you put it in a folder, and don't touch it. If you need to work on it, if you need to edit it, you make a copy and you edit the copy. You know, for exactly that reason. If you overwrite it, if you say, oh yeah, I'm going to scale it down to email to my buddy, okay? And I took that 5,000 pixel image and I scaled it down to 500 pixels, can't go back up. You've lost all that data. It's no longer there.
I did the right thing by mistake.
What's that?
I did the right thing by mistake.
Yeah.
I copied it, not knowing I copied it, and I still have the raw file.
Okay.
Everything I shoot is in raw.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, well, the nice thing about working in RAW, you know, especially with Lightroom, is that you can always revisit that RAW file to kick out a fresh JPEG. And that's usually what I suggest is, you know, so for example, all right, I know when I take a photograph and I want to share it on social media, I'm going to kick it out at 1920 by 1080, right? Max. Okay. And then somebody says, oh, you know, I'd love to get a print of that. Well, I'm not going to send that file that I just kicked out for social media. I'm going to give them a full resolution. But I'm not going to take that social media file and say, well, here's my JPEG. I'm just going to, you know, enlarge it to 5,000 pixels because the image is going to degrade. Okay. I'm going to go back to my original source and I'm going to tell Lightroom, hey, print or export out the same, you know, the same edit. I'm not doing anything extra. Kick it out at the full resolution, and then I'll take that file and send it to them. You know, a more common example is with some of my clients that I photograph products for them that are going to be used on the internet. All right, I have one client that says, hey, I need that file in two different formats. I need a small thumbnail, all right, and I need a large one so that when people go to the main page, they can, you know, expand the view and be able to see all the detail. All right. So what I do is I tell Lightroom, hey, for this image, give me two variations of that. One at this size, one at this size. And that way I don't have to worry about, you know, upsampling, downsampling, cross-sampling, all that good stuff. All right. I'm getting it straight from the source, which is going to give me my cleanest version of that image. You know, so Bill, I don't know, you know, what it is that you do to the JPEG after the fact. You know, I'm sure it serves a purpose, you know, in your way of thinking. But for me, I'd probably just go right back to that original and do whatever tweaks and just kick out a new file, you know.
I probably will. It's just I was just so lazy and tired yesterday. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
it's just one of those. One of those.
yeah. Yeah, the other reason I don't like editing the JPEGs after the fact, and this is just a personal thing with me. All right. I do my edits in Lightroom. I kick it out. I now have a JPEG. It says, "Oh, I see something that I don't like. I need to edit." Okay, but it's small. It's minor. It's a quick little fix. I can probably do it in this little image browser right now. Okay, but for me, I want to preserve whatever I do to that image at that time. It says, well, if I do it to this copy, the original is not going to reflect what I just did. So I'd rather do it to the original so it preserves that edit for the next time I need to. All right. Because the next time may be, 6 months down the road and it says, hey, remember that photo? It says, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, wait. I remember I did something after the fact. What was it that I did? And now you have to kind of recall what additional edits you did after you
Yeah,
kicked it out, What are the chances of that happening? Yeah.
yeah.
But again, it's a pet peeve of mine. It's a pet peeve
You
of
know what I
mine.
usually do if it's something that I'm really fussy about, and not the hiking group that does
Hmm.
2 hikes a month, and my pictures in with a lot of other pictures that
Yeah.
by amateurs with cell phones. Usually, I will if it's something I'm fussy about, I save the PSD file, and I do batch edits in Lightroom, and then I go
Hmm.
to Photoshop because I have my ways of doing things.
Yep.
And in Photoshop, I make
Excuse me.
layers for every little thing that I do. Not every little thing, but
Right.
certain
Yeah.
things, and I label the layers in case
Hmm.
I see something later and I said, I don't like how I did that. I can go back and delete the layer or
Correct. Yeah.
redo the layer. But I never work to the original. I always make a copy of the background,
Yeah.
the original.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you want to work as non-destructively as possible in order to be able to all that does is it facilitates making changes to the image without having to redo a lot of work. That's all it is, you know. So,
And I thought that's what Alan was asking about originally was working in Photoshop because I do similar what Bill does in Photoshop, but then when it comes time to output something, then I use the export function and I send out the file and then I treat it like you do. I'm not once that thing goes out the door, I'm not going to do any work on it. The
yeah.
work happens then
Mhm.
within the original that is what I'm calling my original.
Right. Yeah, but you know what? In the end, it's what workflow works best for you, you know. Um And I've stated before, workflows change all the time. Whenever I analyze it, I'm having a hang up here. This is a pressure point for me. How can I make this part go easier? And then once I find an easier method of doing it, it's either easier technically or it's easier because it saves me time. I will then augment my workflow to incorporate that new process. So workflows always change, as confidence level increases. All right, you start, incorporating changes into your workflow. All right, I remember when I was first starting out, I was, crossing every I or crossing every T, dotting every I, making sure that, am I doing this right? Because if I screw it up, I'm going to screw it up royally, you know? As my confidence increased, I say, oh, well, I can, instead of stretching this into 5 steps in order to build myself that safety net, all right, I can now cut it down to 2 steps, all right, because my confidence level doesn't require that safety net underneath anymore. So I can dismiss those parts of it, you know. So yeah, you do what is comfortable for you at that time. You know?
And I have one more observation to Bill's original question, I think. When I was playing around with some of these a while back, here's, and it's to your hammer, like effect of Facebook's compression algorithms. I was getting lazy and I was putting some stuff on Facebook and I was just throwing up the huge JPEG, 300 dippy, 5,000 by 3,000, and I go, he'll chew on it and put, do what he wants. I don't care. Well, what I found is when if I were to upload the similar image that I compressed myself, like that I knew standard practices. And oh, by the way, you mentioned 60% for Photoshop and Lightroom. The industry average seems to be 75%, but I noticed that with Photoshop and Adobe products, their 60 is what 70 is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I use 60 all the time.
Yeah.
Because it works and, so anyway, I lost my little train of thought on the other thing there.
The hammer.
Is if I do the compressions myself, and get it looking like you said, the right amount, it looks better.
Right.
So that that may play into with some of the darkness that he's getting and some of those other things. But yeah, so because I started using the thing that you mentioned, we learned a couple months ago about Lightroom. I now have some specific folders I put things out depending where they're going to end up. So, and that's really helped a lot.
Yeah. The thing is, if you do a little research and Alan, your mic's open. Oh. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll see if we can talk over them. All right. If you go and do a little research about on Facebook's requirements for uploading images, they give you all the specs. So it says, for posts, this is what you should have. If you enter those dimensions into your Lightroom preset, then it's going to guarantee, well, not guarantee, but you're almost guaranteed that if it's coming in the way Facebook wants it, it's not going to touch it. It's going to say, oh, hey, look, they did my job for me. I'll pass it through. All right. So if you can do that, then that puts the control into your lap and you can make the images, the output the way you want it. All right. Rather than letting some, robot machine take the sledgehammer to it.
Right.
So.
Well, like I said, it taught me not to be lazy.
Well, all right. You guys have heard me say that I describe myself being rather lazy myself. All right. I don't want to do more work than I need to. All right. That's why I love the presets. I have, I don't know how many output presets, export presets in Lightroom for just about everything. And so build it into your export, and say, this one's for Facebook. All right. And there you go. Yeah. When you do the work on editing, where you want to take that image. So create a preset that takes you there. All right. And then that way, your images are going to be looking the best. And then everybody else is going to be overly dark and crunched and, really crappy looking. And people are going to go, ooh, you're an awesome photographer. All right. Because they're comparing yours against everybody else's. Right, Bill? You want to make yours stand out. All right, that was an awesome question. Anybody else? Bob's just kind of lounging there. All right. Um. Let's see. Towards the end of last year, I mentioned that I am working on a project of putting some online workshop together in order to do like a portfolio build. I've been working on that. I just want to give you an update because I know I asked I brought it up to you guys and says, hey, once I have a couple modules put together, would you be interested in doing a test drive? And I'm very close to putting the first module out. It's actually not the first module in the series. It's just the first module that I thought would be interesting enough for you guys at your level to play around with, and then give me some feedback. So um, I'm almost there. So hopefully shortly I will have it, and I will send it out to you guys to test and give me an honest feedback. I need an honest feedback. All right. Don't just sugarcoat it for me.
To a tough crowd here.
I hope so. I hope so.
What kind of a workshop are you talking about?
So it's an online, not quite self-paced, but it's gonna be an online uh, um, weekly sessions that are designed to help build a portfolio for commercial photographers.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to cover the whole gamut, everything from products to lifestyle to fashion to, all kinds of stuff. All right. But the first few are going to be just kind of targeting the fundamentals to try to get people up to speed and comfortable working with the tools and kind of ease them into the program and give an understanding of how the whole thing is structured and what's expected and the type of work that they're going to have to do. So it starts off with the fundamentals. That's kind of the module that I'm working on now for you to test out. So and the product, I believe, the one that I'm kind of settling on right now for you guys is a cheese grater. All right, just because. All right. You've probably seen, a few tutorials out there. One of the ones that have been shared with a number of YouTube instructors is the egg, where you have to, you play around with the light on an egg and you study how the light interacts depending on where around the egg you place it, which is, it's a very simple fundamental exercise, but it gets you thinking in 3 dimensions. It gets you thinking about how light interacts with a subject, and it's a good precursor to portrait photography. So that's probably one that I'm gonna borrow because it's such a great tutorial. And it's not like it's one person's exclusive tutorial. And then the other one that I saw that was pretty cool was a cheese grater, one of those shiny chrome 4-sided cheese graters, and that is kind of designed to make you think about how light reflects off of shiny surfaces, and how can you make something that's rather boring ubiquitous and make it look a little bit more interesting. So it's those kinds of exercises. So and then further down you get into photographing people, photographing vehicles. All right, everybody has a vehicle that they can photograph, you know, uh, and photographing products in use, photographing real estate, you know. So it's nothing that's going to be, exceptionally difficult to pull off, but there are skills that a commercial photographer needs to acquire before they actually, approach a client and say, hey, can have the client go, hey, can you do this? And you're like, oh, I've never done it before. Can I pull it off? Well, if you've gone through the,
Be very interesting.
yeah, awesome. Awesome.
Sounds very
Yeah. So I took a similar course with a photographer that I hold here and dear in high regards, a gentleman by the name of Don Giannatti, who is, a mentor and a teacher for me. And, he put together a product called Project 52. And it's literally 52 weeks of exactly just that. But he kind of retired the program, and I want to see if I can kind of fill in that void. I haven't approached him about it. Hopefully he doesn't watch these. But I want to approach him and say, hey, I'd love to buy, your P52 platform and continue it, because I thought it was a great tool, and it helped me start my portfolio. It got me thinking more in line of a commercial photographer, because when we're shooting for ourselves, there's absolutely no pressure to perform. All right. If we're like Bill is, he does events. He goes on the hiking trips, and there's a certain expectation of him to take really good photos, but there's no pressure for him to actually give a product that is going to hold value to the client. All right. When you become a commercial photographer, when you become a wedding photographer, all right, or a family photographer, even a pet photographer, there's a certain level that is expected from you. All right. And there's a certain demand to I don't want to say perform, but to deliver. Okay. And I'm sure you guys have been out, on a little excursion, either a photo walk or even one of my workshops when we've gone out to photograph something. If you've never done it before, you're given this task, and now it's your task to, set the camera properly, get your framing correct, press that shutter, and capture what's expected of you for that particular workshop or for that particular photo walk. All right. And because there's no pressure, a lot of people use it as a learning experience. And that's when they say, hey, I'm having a hard time. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe it's my settings. Maybe it's the lens choice. What is it? All right. And then I can help them overcome that problem. When you are the one that's supposed to supply the solutions as a commercial artist, as somebody who's being hired to solve those problems, you can't say, oh, I don't know, I think I brought the wrong lens. I don't know, I think it's my settings. A client's not going to want to hear that. So what ends up happening is you start sweating bullets. All right. You overpromise and you undersell, and then you get a black mark on your business. Especially I hear it with the wedding photographers. You only have one shot. If you miss that shot, you've ruined your reputation, and you now have a bridezilla and a momzilla on your ass, and more than likely you're either at best refund the price that they paid out. At worst, you get sued, and nobody likes getting sued because it's costly, time consuming, and it could be a career ender. There goes your business. Nobody wants to hire somebody that gets sued all the time. So being able to go through a process where you have the same pressures of delivering the product without an actual client, because it is a workshop environment, it kind of resets your mentality and says, okay, I've gone through the process. I've struggled through all the pressure points. I've found out the solution. Now, when I do this again for an actual client, I'll be better prepared because I've already done the screw ups, So that's why, workshops really, really help because it kind of pushes you. And, one of the things that I liked about his particular workshop is that there was a level of accountability. All right. It wasn't a self-paced program. It's not like, you watch a video and you try to do the process, or you say, I'm just going to watch the video and I'm going to skate on this one. I'll learn everything I need from that video, and you don't put in the work. All right. And you think you have all the information. And then when push comes to shove, you try to recall everything you learned in the video and you fail. And that sucks. So the nice thing about him is that they were week classes, and we met once a week on Zoom, and we presented our work. We gave a discussion about, what we did, how we resolved certain issues. Were there any pressure points? And then he can say, okay, well, here's the pressure point you encountered. This is how you overcome it. And then the next session, you're able to take what you've learned in that session and apply it to the next one. And that's how you grow. And in the end, you end up with a bunch of images that you put together and you create your first portfolio. And it was awesome. And it really, really elevated my level of photography from here to way up there. So anyway, that's my goal. That's what I want to do. All right. Any other questions? No other questions? Because I'm a little underprepared today. So, anyway, all right. Well, we'll call it early then. All right. It'll be an hour show.
This week I don't mind because I have to. I'm going on a trip.
Oh.
Friday morning.
Any place fun?
I've Seattle. So.
Ooh, nice.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it's like travel. I find traveling to be stressful. So
yeah,
it's like I
it
gotta
can
get
be.
my act together. Plus, I have a cat sitter coming in, which means I have to clean the house. And my cat sitter is a professional house cleaner, so my house should be clean.
Yeah. Well, are you paying them to clean the house as well as sit?
No.
Oh.
No. But by the way, I had to rearrange furniture to put this computer here because this thing is a monster. This thing has to be like 4 feet high. The gaming computer.
Yeah. They're big.
So it couldn't be on the tables, so I had to put it on the floor, and I had to do different rearranging and take one thing out of here and put it someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is I should probably. You know what? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
It's
hold on.
it's
Let me
is
let
it
me
air
share.
air
Let me
cooled?
share-
Yeah.
Let me share the screen.
What kind thought a computer is 4 foot tall.
Hold on a second. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe,
it's not
maybe,
4 feet, but it is huge. It is big.
hold on a second. Let me turn on my video. Give me a second. Okay.
Yeah.
You see me? Okay.
Yep.
Watch me. I'm going to take this here. And unfortunately, I got this thing tied up so I don't have cords dangling all around. So I'll send you a picture. Yeah, you know, I hate cords dangling, especially with a cat here. You know, don't want a cat taking down a machine. And I was going to show you this. It
Yeah.
has all sorts of lights on it. And it has 5 fans, 3 in the front,
Mm-hmm.
2 in the back, and 1 in the middle.
Yeah,
And it has vents on the
I'm
top.
not
and the
I'm
front
not
and
seeing
the-
anything if you're sharing anything.
Oh no, I'm not sharing because
Oh.
the thing is the camera. The camera, I put it up here,
Okay.
and I wrapped the cord around the monitor because so it wouldn't be dangling. So
Gotcha,
I
gotcha.
can't take the cord and show you the picture.
That's right. Yeah. But yeah, to Alan's question, my laptop, my laptop at home and my computer here at the studio, they're gaming systems. And this box is almost 2 feet tall. So yeah, they're big.
Maybe it is 2 feet. Okay, it's
Yeah.
but you know, I would not get a gaming machine and a laptop because of the heat.
Oh, when my fans kick on, it sounds like a jet engine. It really does. So what I do is at home I have it on a cooling pad, which is a little bit quieter, and I'm able to set my fans to run at a lower speed, just enough to keep it cool, but without getting that high whine of a turbine noise. So otherwise my wife would never be able to watch TV because of the noise. When that thing kicks into high gear, oh man, you can hear it. It literally sounds like a jet engine taking off. You know, but it's got the power, you know. It's got the graphics power. That's what's needed. And like you said, it's probably going to be the last computer you ever buy.
I think this will be the last computer
Yeah.
I buy.
You know, my last gaming computer lasted me 12 years. You know, 12 years.
If I'm here at age 85, I don't think I'm going to be editing pictures.
Yeah. I hear you.
Or it might all change. 12 years from now.
Oh yeah, who knows?
You know,
Yeah.
we're going to have chips in our head that, you know,
Well,
we're
if you
gonna have- 12 years from now, we are going to have chips on our head. Whereas if I go over here and I look at, let's say, a statue or a landscape, and I just press a little button on my forehead, and it'll take a picture.
No, it won't take. It'll take a scan, and you'll be able to replicate it in 3D. Yeah, and the button will be right on your temple.
Okay,
It is, yeah.
There's one theme song to sing about this type of stuff. Meet George Jetson.
Yes. Oh yeah, there you go. You may not have the implant, but you'll have the robot next to you and it says, "Hey, do me a favor, document that for me."
Well, I do have a robot vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
And we all, we all have flat screen TVs.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Technology is getting scarier now that we have AI. That's really just ramping up.
But
Oh my God.
I just wonder if AI is an overused term, and let me
Well,
tell you.
I won't, not to interrupt, but I won't say overused.
Yeah,
I would say misused. It's one of those.
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, it's one of those terms that is so broad, like
Yeah.
kind of like the term photography. The term photography is a very broad term that covers such a wide range of things that fall into the what you would classify as photography. You know, you have medical photography, all right? Somebody who takes an X-ray, all right, they're technically a photographer. They're using film, they're using a camera, they are developing that film that shows you a picture of your inside. They are a photographer, all right? Very specialized photographer, but a photographer. Just a guy that presses a button on this, as lazy as it. Oh yeah, okay, all right, get closer, click. All right, he's a photographer. You know. So yeah, it.
The reason why I think it's a misuse, it's probably a misused term because you know we have all heard of HD television, right?
Yep.
High definition television. Have you heard of HD radio? Have you heard of being mentioned?
I've heard HD radio.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. It is not HD. It's not high definition. It's a marketing term for digital radio.
Yes.
And it's a company. It's somebody came up with this thing of how to do digital radio transmission, and they probably came up with receivers, but I know for radio station transmissions for HD, a radio station has to pay a licensing fee to the person who came up with it.
Oh wow. Oh, talk about a scam there. Holy crap. Yeah. But yeah, you know, the term AI is kind of just a basket that holds a bunch of different things, you know, because Lightroom, Photoshop, Luminar, all right, all of these programs, they use artificial intelligence, all right, in order to accomplish certain tasks. But it's a different type of work that goes behind the scenes than something like Chat GPT, which is, you can argue it's really not AI. It's a language model. It uses a completely different way of organizing language and accessing information than, you know, like, all right, well, let's take Midjourney, all right, Midjourney AI and Photoshop AI to do, you know, some basic tweaking on an image. They're both labeled AI, but they're two totally separate beasts, and how they operate, and the coding structure underneath it, you know. And you mentioned your vacuum cleaner that maps out your room, and you know, that's not AI. We label it AI. It's not really AI. It's just a bunch of sensors, and it's collecting the data around it and analyzing and creating a map to follow. All right. But because we look at it as giving a sort of autonomy to that little vacuum cleaner, we label it AI just because it's a simple term to understand, you know, but it's really not AI. You know, you might as well say your GPS is AI because it can map out, you know, the route from point A to point B. And then all you have to do is just, you know, follow that route. Okay. So, yeah, it's overused. And, you know, but again, it's something new. It's something that's emerging. It's something that's going to change as we move along, you know, until we get a better language that describes all these different parts, you know. We're already getting, we're already starting to see more use of generative AI to describe like the Chat GPTs and the Mid Journeys from other types of AI. You know, so there's already starting to become a little separation in the different parts. So,
Hey,
It'll
Doug,
it'll
can
be
I share my
interesting.
screen? There is
Yeah.
something I wanted to mention here. Hold on a
Hmm.
second. Let's do that. Now, I wanted to repurpose my old machine for something else, and uh, I wanted to uninstall all of my programs on the old machine because, I'm not going to use that anymore. So, of course, I came into here, watch me.
Yeah.
I can click here and I can say, I can uninstall.
Hmm.
Now, the problem is, of course, there's Photoshop. I don't use Bridge, Lightroom, Camera Raw, and of course, want to delete Creative Cloud Desktop.
Hmm.
Now, if you notice, there are no options next to Camera Raw.
No.
So when I went to delete all these things, it wouldn't let me delete Creative Cloud because it came up with a message saying, "Hey, you're still using Creative Cloud." So I had to
Hmm.
go out to ask in Google, "Hey, what's the problem here?" So I had to go to a certain, and it wasn't under the typical programs subdirectory, the program subdirectory of programs
Yeah.
86X or whatever it's called,
Right.
Adobe and Camera Raw, whatever. It told me where to go, and I wish I couldn't remember where to go. So
Yeah.
if you have trouble, if you want to uninstall everything, you have to jump through hoops to try to uninstall Camera Raw because it doesn't
Yeah.
even come
Well,
up in you.
yeah. Camera Raw is part of Photoshop.
Hmm.
So
But
if
when I uninstalled Photoshop, it wouldn't uninstall Camera Raw. That's the problem.
right, because Camera Raw, even it's linked into the Camera Raw is kind of like a separate entity,
Hmm.
but it's directly linked with Photoshop, and I believe Bridge also uses it. So that's why it's separate. So rather than have that chunk of program and replicate it in both, they just say, hey, we're going to keep it separate, and it's going to be accessed uh, from that, you know, one tag. So, but from what I understand, you don't, and it's been a while since I did this, but I don't think you need to uninstall. You just need to. Um, I'm trying to remember. You just basically need to designate that computer A is no longer going to be utilizing these programs. It's going to be computer B.
I, I
Um,
couldn't I couldn't find how to do it back in the old
yeah.
days. You would uninstall, like when I had Express, you would uninstall it on your machine and it
Right.
knew it wasn't going to be on your machine anymore. But it wasn't like that with this. I ended up wiping the whole drive anyways, which I could have done,
Yeah, yeah.
that's another
That's pain
story
in the ass.
altogether.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with our forum. But I ended up wiping that drive anyways and
Hmm.
starting from square one, which is probably what I should have done in the first place. But I was afraid I was going to have to, with my programs, uh, the way Photoshop was before in the days of Express, I thought I was going to have to uninstall it here. Because with Express, if you went to a new machine, it says, "Hey, you have a license on another machine."
Yes.
So I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure my machine wasn't, listed as a licensed.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think when you start going through the process, it'll take you to that spot anyway.
Mhm.
Because when I switched computers, which was what 5 years ago, I can't remember what the heck I did 5 years ago. Uh, I know it was a little bit of hoop jumping, but it wasn't that bad, you know.
I
So
hate these things that you do maybe only once in a lifetime, once every 5 years, or even once a year.
yep,
And it's like, you don't want to write it down because it's taking up space,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, where did I put it anyways?
yes, yeah. You know, back when we had CDs, it was easy. We just take, oh,
Oh,
I need to reinstall this, clink.
oh,
You know?
that's the thing that pisses me off
Yeah.
about these software companies is, you had a CD and all you had to do was reinstall the CD.
Yep.
Now, if you want to refresh your computer from
Yeah.
square one, you have to do this and
Yeah.
do that, and
Except back then, when you loaded it from the CD, then you had to go through the whole process of updating whatever
yeah, that's
from
true.
so
Yeah,
there were
I got that.
trade-offs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
All
Luckily,
the
if you
golden
don't
days.
with Windows, luckily if you don't write down the pin product key,
Mhm.
the computer knows it anyways. So
Yeah, yeah.
luckily, yeah, I have
Yeah,
it written down.
they've got the securities have gotten better. Yeah.
Because I what I did was I looked up, well, how do I know my product key, and then
Mhm.
told me what I had to do and go to command prop, and I wrote down, and I wrote down the product key.
Mhm.
I ended up not having to re-key in the product key anyway, so
Right.
apparently it's in the BIOS or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And now, with Photoshop, you don't need those because everything's maintained on their side.
Hmm.
You just got to log into your account and they have all that information.
That's the good thing about
Yeah.
it. It knows, like, I believe you're allowed to. Uh, I think it doesn't matter how many computers you have it on.
Yeah, as long
It
as
just
it's
says you can't
two
be on more than two
instances.
computers at once,
Correct.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's just as I wanted a clean machine because was using it for a different purpose.
Right, right, right. Yeah. So, awesome.
I'll be looking forward to pills next week. You mentioned pills?
Oh, photo pills.
Yes.
Yeah, next month.
Oh, next month.
Yeah.
Is this what day is it? Is it already end of the month?
Well, yeah, so this is the end of January, so it'll be for the Q&A in February.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, now
Yeah.
I get it now.
Okay.
Really, I thought this was the 30th or something like that. What did I do with this month?
Yeah. Oh, I know. And it seems it
It
goes, yeah, so quick. It's unbelievable. It seems the older I get, the faster it goes.
Oh,
Damn it.
I think it has to do with, when you're 10 years old, a year is 1/10 of your life. At this point, a year
Yeah.
is,
wrong.
Yeah. That's it. All right, guys.
Good night.
Have a good
Well,
one.
thank you.
We won't see you next week, but the week after that. All right.
Good.
So have your Lightroom questions ready.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. Be safe.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.